Julian Johnny is an artist, trained as a graphic designer. So why is he hopping all over New York City like a TaskRabbit? And what if a PhD won't even get you a living wage?
It is low-wage work and it is unacceptable.
Adjunct professors. Can they escape the catch-22 of today's higher education system?
It's the very adjunct work itself that stigmatizes you and that in fact prevents you from getting the job that you want.
This week, work and wages and the struggle to make ends meet.
I grew up in Chicago, the city that works, the city that works. A slogan crafted by His Honor the Mayor of Mayors, Richard J. Daley, who held the office for 21 consecutive years until the day he died. The city as a haven for hard-working blue-collar types was something to stoke the image of Chicago as a place where things happen because people, not born to any privilege, use the sweat of their brow to will them into existence. If you think about it for a moment, that really is the American mythology. This idea that anyone from anywhere can find success by pulling hard enough on their own bootstraps. With hard work, there's no limit to what you can become. Business tycoon, the mayor, a titan of industry. But was that ever truly true? Sure, it takes a lot of hard work to run the world's most profitable company like Tim Cook over at Apple. But what about that woman you see on the train in the scrubs, heading to her job as a home healthcare attendant? I bet she works pretty damn hard too, and odds are there's no year-end bonus or golden parachute waiting for her. So just who decides what work is worth? And how do they do it? A living wage, guaranteed minimum income, the fight for 15 and equal work for equal pay. Each one a plank in the bridge over the gap between the haves and the have-mores. This tale of two cities is not a lament on the 1%. In fact, we're here at Ample Hills today because that boy growing up in the city that works could think of no cooler job than working in an ice cream shop. Maybe you had your own dreams about what cool job you would do when you grew up. But those childhood imaginings may have given way to some harsh realities, like those being faced by the folks we're about to meet as we go in on labor.
I was born in England. I moved to America when I was 12, 13, when my mum got divorced from my dad. Everything was kind of different. The people were a lot different than they are in England. Everyone was more about being who they are. If you're that person, you have to be that type of way. And everyone fit their roles. I didn't really have a role to fit, so I was it just felt out of place all the time. I didn't really get friends for like the first 2 years. I didn't speak much. And when I did speak, everyone made a really big deal about it, so I spoke even less. Yeah. Drawing, I've been doing since I was like 4 or 5 years old. Like I draw when I'm like sad or emotional. My older brother went to school for art and he influenced me to draw quite a lot when growing up. Like I used to look at him draw and be like, oh yeah, I could do that. So I started doing it. I was pretty good. I drew throughout all my classes. I never really got the classes that I wanted to take until I got to college and started doing graphic design. I was working, I was going to school, and I was trying to balance social life. Doing that made school extraordinarily hard, even though the classes weren't that hard. Most of the people I've heard of that graduated from art schools are still doing like bartending jobs and stuff like that, not graphic design jobs. No one teaching anyone how to price their work in schools. So when you get out of school, you have no clue what to really do when it comes to pricing people. And it often goes downhill for most artists at that point. You don't tell people how much you really want for the thing, so you lower it, and then you start working for low prices, and you can't survive off that, so you have to go back to doing retail. It was my friend Jensiel, who's also a graphic designer. He knew I didn't have a job and stuff, so he recommended that I go into do TaskRabbit. He showed me like how the job works, and then I tried it. It's a society where people can just hire you, get what they want really quickly. You can do something and get hired for it and make good money for it without really needing anyone else. Just an app. As long as you have the skills and the ability to describe what you can do in a short paragraph, you can do it. Like, you'll get hired. There's furniture building, there's moving, like helping people move out of their house. There's like heavy lifting, there's organizing, there's like being an assistant for people, like personal assistant. My schedule's, it's never really consistent. Sometimes you'll get hired like the day before, and then you'll have like a set schedule. But most of the time it's just waiting around for same day tasks or people trying to hire you last minute. You have a lot of time to yourself, I guess, to draw and do animation or graphic design. I'd like to be an animator as soon as possible. I'm gonna finish my portfolio and then I'm gonna apply to pretty much every animation studio in New York and see who will take me. But I'm not sure how big of a change it would be, considering that I'd go in at a certain time and leave at a certain time and have a lot more work to do. And I'm not even sure I'd be getting paid as much, because that's not really a guarantee. I can draw well enough to make a storyboard for a movie at this point. That would completely change my life, and then I wouldn't have to actually get an animation job. I'd be directing movies. But that's kind of just a dream at this point. Yeah. My name's Julian Johnny, and I am a graphic designer in New York City.
So you want to work in an ice cream shop. People who work at Popeyes go home smelling like chicken. Do you like walk into the door and people say, it smells like caramel in here?
Yeah.
Wow, they got it down.
Oh my God, I did not.
You know, just a regular guy working at an ice cream factory.
The life of an adjunct is incredibly difficult. Everybody I know is running around from one school to another, trying to make ends meet, but they really want to teach because this is what drives them.
I have to show up tired with hundreds of students looking at me like I have to provide them with quality education, which of course I do.
CUNY is a working class institution. What sort of message are we sending to young people that see their professors not making wages that are comparable for their degree?
We are here as the union of the proud faculty and staff of the City University of New York. We say no to cutbacks. No. We say no, in particular, to the exploitation of part-time faculty at CUNY. We know as a union, we know as workers and as students, it is unjust to stand by when our adjunct brothers and sisters, the majority of CUNY faculty who teach the majority of classes, are making an average income comparable to fast food workers. It is low-wage work and it is unacceptable.
I'm here today to demand $7,000 per course, which is 3 credit hour. Right now, I make about $3,000, which is way below minimum wage once you think about the emails, the grading, the lesson planning, and the teaching. I'm wanting a fair contract, and I want adequate labor or wages for my labor, and at this point it's just not happening.
Firm is here. We need Bill Thompson to call on all of the Board of Trustees, to call on all of the CUNY administration, to call on the state government and the city government to invest in CUNY, to give us the funding, to find the money. Find the money.
And we are trying to use the only leverage that we really have, which is striking, and to join this education strike wave. Let CUNY know that if they don't actually meet our demand, we can shut down the 25 CUNY campuses in New York City, and it would be a nightmare for them.
The resolution for 7K or strike, it came out of the Graduate Center, and that was the first place where the resolution was raised. We'd been negotiating since November. It's now November again, and there's no movement because we don't have the right to strike. And so basically the city and the state doesn't have to do anything. There's no pressure on them.
So the Taylor Law had two intentions. One was to protect unions, but the other was to supposedly protect the interests of the public. And so the Taylor Law allows for the continuation of contracts even after they expire. So for instance, at CUNY, we have been without a contract for a year, but the university still has to respect the contract that was in place until we agree on a new one. One of the parts of the Taylor Law is that it is illegal for any public sector worker to go on strike.
What we are fighting for today is a fair contract for everyone, and any gain for anyone is a gain for all of us.
Penalties are very stiff. In addition to losing pay, I mean, you give up pay if you go on strike, but more severe, there are penalties that are imposed on unions with the intention of crippling unions after they do a strike.
And do we have graduate employees in the House?
I think it's time for the no strike provision in that law to be eliminated. That would be a very, very big fight. But the strike is labor's biggest weapon. I've been in strikes. I know how hard they are. And it's a very, very serious weapon and a serious step to take, especially in this legal context. So we do not take it lightly. You know, we have been working hard to achieve our aims. We're not at that point, and I'm hoping that we are able to get 7K for adjuncts and the other things that we need in this contract without doing that.
The sooner that we can demonstrate that there is support for a strike, authorization vote to union leadership, because the clock is ticking in a sense, right? If they make an economic offer tomorrow, we're not as organized as we would like to be. We're not speaking with a united voice yet saying, we want you to call a strike authorization vote. So therein lies the urgency. So please convey this message to who you are talking to. There is nothing illegal about signing this card. There is in fact nothing illegal about voting yes on a strike authorization vote, but it is the next step.
The idea is to reach out to full-timers at CUNY and get them to sign this very short letter. The final paragraph reads, this contract must prioritize a livable wage for adjunct colleagues. 7,000 minimum per 3-credit course is a crucial step in that direction, and anything short of that is worth striking over.
Well, not all full-timers are actually going to say, yes, I think adjuncts deserve 7K. It's disheartening, but a lot don't feel that way. So
I think a lot of educating students comes from the professor in the classroom at that point. So just telling, very simply just saying, I make this much money. and then contextualizing that for them, compared to, a tenure professor, this is how much I make.
Management has not released the CUNY budget for the next cycle. And so obviously when they do finally release that budget, it in a very numbers focused way will signal, what they're prepared to offer. And I think they're not, the money's not going to be in the budget. So there is talk of a rally after that meeting, if in fact they do release the budget by then.
I think it's really good and really useful and important to go and testify and speak truth to power, but ultimately, this campaign to me is building power and, forcing them to come to the table and demonstrating our strength where currently, unfortunately we have none. And at your average Board of Trustee meeting, more than half of the trustees don't even show up to do their job. They don't care. They don't care to hear your testimony because they literally don't care. And making them care is through moral suasion, I think is just not going to succeed. And that we need to diversify our tactics and try something where you can't really argue with the fact that, all right, well, we have 5,000 pledges and we're going to go on strike.
That was pretty much what World War II was also.
I never came as close as I came to getting a full-time job within those 2 years having just gotten my PhD, which is ironic because you're struggling to try to get a position to build up your academic worth and value in their eyes, and you have to take adjunct work to survive, but yet it's the very adjunct work itself that stigmatizes you and that in fact prevents you from getting the job that you want.
The path to tenure doesn't exist for us anymore. I know one out of dozens of friends who've gone through graduate programs in the city and across the country that are tenure track, and their jobs, even tenure track, their jobs are still in danger. They're still in as much jeopardy labor-wise as we are.
Now this semester I'm teaching 6 courses, okay, over 3 different institutions. Next semester I'm contemplating teaching 7. 7 courses is even beyond the entire year's worth for a full-time professor anywhere. So why, in 1 semester I'm doing that. Why am I at the lowest point? Because now I am starting to hate what I'm doing. And it really is killing me internally that I have to show up tired of repeating myself 1,000 times with hundreds of students looking at me like I have to provide them with quality education, which of course I do. I have to have a soul to give to my students, but the irony is that the conditions under which I teach have destroyed the very thing I need to give to my students.
Well, I make $3,200 per course per semester. I'm teaching 2 courses in the fall and the spring. So what is that, 64? So it's about $12,800. And I think I could maybe teach 1 more course if I could figure out a way to do that for each semester. But realistically, I'm tapped, I'm exhausted. I go to sleep at 9 o'clock every night. I don't have capacity for more. So yeah, I don't know how people do it and also do other things like PhD work or what have you. I have no idea.
There are very good reasons why full-timers in general should support $7,000 for adjuncts. If we stand by and we allow adjuncts to be paid so little, then effectively we're saying that our labor is not worth more. There's a lot of reasons why CUNY has been underfunded for 30 years, but the ability to rely upon adjuncts as a way of doing more with less is a big part of that.
And CUNY was set up in 1947 to educate the New York City working class. There was a point at which it was free, and now the students have to pay $3,000 a semester.
Students united will never be defeated.
In 1989, when they were going to raise tuition, the students couldn't afford it, and so the catalyst that set off the student strike and shut down the city university for something like 6 weeks, although the workers didn't do it.
The word has come down, I heard this afternoon, that if there is no tuition increase, then workers will be laid off. The administration, not only of the school, but of the city university in general, Cuomo and all of the bosses, would like to pit workers against students.
By working, and I thought that's what America was about. But if they cut the budget and raise the tuition, they triple my tuition, I won't be able to afford to get my degree. And then what am I going to do?
The other thing that the university has been doing is raising tuition, which is a separate problem. But an example, really, of the way that situations like this pit different groups against one another. So full-time faculty against adjunct faculty, and then students against adjunct faculty, because the logical conclusion, I think, for some students would be to say, but my God, if we're going to pay them $7,000, they're going to raise tuition. I don't want my tuition raised, so therefore, why should I support this? We never should have allowed this to exist at CUNY, and we never should have allowed it to exist nationwide. This sort of extreme exploitation of one group of workers within the academic labor market.
If the city and state governments, I feel, really had the agenda of making sure that our students at CUNY had the best possible education, then they would put the money in. So one can only draw the conclusion that that is not their agenda. I mean, the students at CUNY are overwhelmingly, the undergraduates overwhelmingly people of color, 77% people of color. The majority have family incomes of $30,000 or less. Brilliant students. I mean, students who fought so hard to be where they are. We have strong membership support. Our members support the bargaining team. We will need to escalate if what the members need in a contract is not there. That's the only way we've ever been able to win. That's the power of the union.
Fight back! Fight back!
Jackie, we are in my happy place right now.
Oh,
it
good.
is a childhood dream to be standing on this side of an ice cream counter. I'm wondering what your first job was.
Oh my God. Okay, so my first job was working at Roy Rogers as a fixins.
I remember Roy Rogers.
Do you remember Roy Rogers?
You could
Okay.
just go up and grab a burger.
Yeah. There was a fixins bar.
Yeah.
And so it was like the pickles, the onions, it was great. I loved that job. It was my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I went on to do I worked at Tony Roma's. You remember Tony Roma's?
Of course.
Place for ribs, yeah. So I went on to Tony Roma's and I still really did like that experience.
So what did you learn from being a punching the clock kind of person at a Tony Roma's or the dearly departed Roy Rogers that you brought with you, and now that you want to make sure your employees have the same sort of satisfaction or avoid something that you may have hated working there?
Right, yeah, exactly. No, so it's about knowing that the people that you work for care about you. That's really important. I didn't really, while I liked the salad bar, I don't think they even knew my name, the managers even. Like it was just not a personal space. I want to be the place that people, want to work at, that they're saying, oh my God, it's such a great place. There's such great employers. There's such great, ice cream, and it's fun, obviously, and we get paid what we should get paid.
I don't know which is my favorite yet, but I'm looking at the one that the kids love, the blue ice cream.
Blue one.
That is what, that's the cotton candy, yes?
That's the cotton candy.
So can I make cotton candy the first ice cream I ever scoops?
Oh my God, yes.
Professionally?
It's a perfect one.
So I
you're
want
gonna
the full
hold the cone
experience.
and, you know, with the napkin so that your hands are not touching the cone. And you're gonna just work on creating that.
This is my dominant hand, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
okay, good. I'm gonna stand back and let you.
I'm going in. Okay.
That's a good, ooh.
Oh, I want that
That's okay.
dangler.
All right.
Oh, come on. Somebody ought to do something about this.
Okay. You know what? That is a good first scoop.
I think I'm a natural,
I
not
think
to make
that's
too
good.
much of it, but
I think it looks great.
check me out. Thanks for going in with us on labor. We hope this was as enjoyable for you as it's certainly been for me. To check out the episode again or watch any of the past shows, find us on the web at youtube.com/BRIC TV. Bye now.